All right, today we're doing a cast iron closet flange. Look at that thing, it's all ripped up. So I got my drill out, I started drilling holes in the lead. I didn't have the right hole saw to do that hole saw trick, so before you say anything, I've done it this way many times. It works pretty well, it's pretty easy. Now a lot of guys might do a repair flange here. I don't care, I don't think that that's any worse than what I'm doing here, but it just would have been harder to do it that way. I'm not doing this to be a pretentious prick, I'm doing it because I enjoy it. You see, I used a Odie Fix-It flange. I cut it in half there so I can get my right flange height. Newer toilets, you gotta have your flange set above the floor. Otherwise, I do 2 wax rings on there. Now I'm packing oakum in the joint. I'm gonna heat up the lead, get it really nice and hot, and then I'm gonna fish out all the impurities on the top. Pour the joint. It was a terrible pour, but that's okay. Toilet flange, that's okay. And I hit it with a caulking chisel, pulled my rag out of there, and look at that. I had to make some alterations to my set fast bolts. I didn't have any other bolts. And you ready for this? This is the best part. This is my favorite part right here. Glacier Bay right on top, baby. Doesn't get any more American than that. So hey, look, 2 hours in and out. It's a good job. See you on the next one. All right, here's another day in the life of living the dream, one nightmare at a time. So my first call was this Lars boiler. We used to install these things, and honestly, if you bought one of them, I'm sorry. When I was working on this the other day, the vent damper was, closed like 80% when the system was trying to run. The spill switch was tripped, and then when I pushed the button, it actually popped the fuse, which just opened up a whole nother set of questions. As it turned out, the wires were swapped on the ignition control, which, it took me a really long time to figure that out. It was right in front of my stupid face, but I didn't realize it until I was about to swap out the ignition control. Then I decided to change this temperature control module that's in there. But after I changed that, then I started getting a boiler sensor error, so I had to take this whole thing apart. Again, I apologize if we put these in for you. Next, I had to go out to an air conditioning call. It's 81 degrees today. And the AC is not working. Now, somebody had put a dye stick in there to see where the leak was. Like always, I had to do way too much to take the cover of this coil off. And there it is. You would think it'd be colder when it's turning into ice. But I think we got a leak in here. It's under warranty. We'll figure all of that stuff out. It's just the way things are today, man, And like always, I just take some time at the end of the day to sit and reflect on all the things that I've done wrong and, what maybe could have caused me to deserve this. But anyway, that's all for today. See you on the next one. All right, we're doing a water heater today. Let's see if we can get through this without too much stress, too much fussing about stuff you guys like to do. So the first thing I had to do was change the valve out because the water heater that I'm putting in is taller than the one that was there originally. So usually with this, we got to do some retrofit. So obviously I got to change his gas lines, not coming down in the right spot. And everything in the garage was blocking the gas meter, so I just opted to do it live. So I took this pipe off, put a cap in there real quick. Tried to use the other gas shut off, but it was really stuck on there. And I went and took this coupling off, which is actually a thread protector, and that's where I'm going to put my shutoff valve. So that was my second live swap, and wasn't a lot of gas leaked out of there. And all of this, I'm just eyeballing. I'm pretty much limited on what I got. What you saw in front of me was everything that I had for half-inch nipples, and it seemed to work out. Next, I had to do the water. Thank God for ProPress, because this would have been a pain in the ass to sweat like that. Kind of screws the next guy, but the last guy screwed me, so what are you going to do? Flue pipe was easy. Get that pilot lit up. And there it is. Brandy spanking. Bradford White, 10-year warranty. Extra clean, extra professional. All right, see you on the next one. All right, on today's episode of Dingy Basements with Boilers That Don't Drain, we got a New Yorker steam boiler, and it's actually only 8 years old, but it's got a leak on it. If you look here, you can see it's been leaking a little bit. I recommended to the customer to replace the boiler, but he considers himself an investor. He's one of these guys that's like a real estate investor, and he just doesn't see replacing the boiler as a good investment. I told him that would all be fine and good if we could actually fill the boiler with financial advice. As much as it is just a bunch of hot air, it's not enough to satisfy the heat load of the coldest day of the year. He didn't get that, which was a bummer. And so I'm going to try something different. I'm going to see how it goes. Naturally, this relief valve was completely clogged. So I had to clean it out so I could add this boiler liquid. Yeah, Odie's very creative with their names of things. But it was $9 at Home Depot, and it's supposed to stop leaks in steam boilers, so we're going to give it a shot. Now, there's a way to do this, and to tell you the truth, I'm not totally certain that I read the directions the right way, but I know that I put it in the right way, filled it slow like it said to. The boiler feed was hot water, so I'm filling it with hot water. And you saw me earlier with the pressure troll. I cranked the pressure way up inside of this thing. The bottle says to leave it that way as long as possible, but I just can't leave a boiler with like 8 to 10 pounds of pressure in there. So I lowered the pressure. Now you hear the music? We got guys working down here. Let's check out some of their stuff they're doing over here. Looks like we got a plumbing rehab in this historic house. Ooh, look at those fittings. These guys never met a short radius they didn't like. This is what I would call a quality investment. And look at that. We're getting a bathroom down there. That's a solid rough-in if you ask me. Anyway, that's all I got for you today, guys. See you on the next one. All right, we're going to do another steam boiler service today. This time turned out to be a little bit different from the last time you saw me do this. Actually, on the water side of this, it was pretty clean, but then when I went and looked at the burners, uh-oh. I don't know if you saw those crispy wires there, but this thing is definitely not drafting out. So I took all these burners out to get a better idea of what I was looking at, and I pulled the top cover of the boiler so that I could get the draft hood off. And while I was waiting for somebody to come and bring me some brushes and some other stuff, I decided to take everything else apart so I could continue the rest of my service. You see here, I'm going to take apart these vents so that I can look inside of the chimney. And I have to take the vent out anyway to get the rest of the boiler apart. So I got the draft hood off, and then the next part is actually a little bit harder to get off. I started cleaning out the burner tray. You can see all the refractory cement and everything that fell in there. Look at these burners. Trashed. But I started cleaning them up because I'm still waiting on some stuff to come. And here's Tommy. Tommy showed up. He wanted to get his hands dirty for 5 minutes, so I let him do a little bit of it. Sits around in his office making price books, so I know he's, he misses being out here. So what you just saw was in between the boiler sections, and the left and right side of the boiler was like completely plugged up. I spent about an hour and a half with brushes just working them back and forth in there. Shined a light through it so I could see and make sure I could get down to the burner from all of the sections. And there's a little weep hole on the end. I don't know if you see that little calcium buildup, but that's going to come back to bite me. So everything that dropped out from there, I had to go into the burner chamber and clean all of that stuff out. That was probably another hour of doing that because I had to scrape the bottom really good. Then I had to scrape off all of these burners. I'm doing the same thing with a brush. Then I went back with a wire brush. Then I went back with a Scotch Brite pad and emery cloth. That probably took me about an hour to do that. Now I had to put these bolts back in and put the draft hood back on. If you take a little loose piece of insulation off of the side of the boiler and stick it in there to hold the bolt, that'll save your life someday in the future because dropping those bolts really sucks. And look at that. Look how nice and clean that burner tray is. Beautiful. I put the whole thing back together so that I could get back to the rest of my service. And then I just finished like I always do. I had the low water cutoff off. I cleaned that, put that back on. I had taken the pressure troll off and the gauge, and I put all that stuff back on, cleaned the pigtail, cleaned the gauge glass, filled it up, and I filled it up high just to see, and this boiler was leaking. So I got it running for now because realistically it's leaking on the steam side, but realistically we're going to have to do something about that. The old man appreciates the time I put into this, so he's probably just going to buy a new boiler from me. But here's a candid shot of the steam coming up out of the chimney. Anyway, see you on the next one. All right, we're doing a triple play today. A triple play is a common job that we do during heating season for hot water boilers when a customer has a leak in relief valve. That's that pipe that drips that you're always putting the bucket under. So anyway, there's three major components here. Obviously, we have the pressure reducing valve, which is going to bring the pressure down from the city pressure down to about 12 to 15 psi. We have the expansion tank, which is going to do what expansion tanks do. And we have the relief valve. The relief valve really should always be changed every time you do a job like this because once it leaks, it doesn't like to close back up again. Now, in this case, I was close to 25 pounds inside of the boiler when it was cold, so I know the pressure reducer was a problem, but we like to change the expansion tanks anyway, just while we're at it. It gives a little bit of extra peace of mind. Now, expansion tanks can actually be serviced. You can expect to lose a pound of pressure inside of an expansion tank every year, so it really should be done every year or 2 years. But I don't know. We just change them out when we do jobs like this. Makes more sense. And then every time I do one of these, I change these can vents out. I don't charge anything extra for that. But that's it. See you on the next one. All right. Today we're doing a simple steam boiler maintenance. Unfortunately, my friends in Europe are not going to understand this one, which is really upsetting because they're all just so smart. So anyway, we're going to start by draining the boiler. Obviously, you see that this one doesn't want to drain. This was just serviced last year. I don't know to what extent. But I actually had to hook up a hose and blow water through this drain so that I could get water out of it because otherwise I'd have no way of draining the boiler. It dawned on me that it was possible that I wasn't able to use the sight glass to check the level of the water, and yeah, I was right. And the reason I'm doing this with buckets and pitchers is because I want gravity to do some of the work for me. This isn't like hot water where we have pressure to assist us, and look, I was right. Empty boiler, full sight glass. Once I got the boiler drained, I started putting some water through to start getting some of the sludge out of the Hartford loop. This service is all about the sludge. You're going to pick up on that. Next, I took that drain out and I put it into my regular boiler drain. And I used the water to unclog the drain and to push some of the sludge off of the bottom out that T. Look at that. I got to do this before any of the other things that I originally intended to do here. So it's safe to say there's really no set amount of time that this should take. So the next thing, I'm going to take apart this sight glass. You see I took apart the valves. I'm going to take the low water cutoff off. And all of that is just going to get cleaned in the sink. I'm going to clean the probe for the low water cutoff. I'm going to clean those valves. And the low water cutoff is going to go back on before I proceed with my next step. I use pipe dope only on the low water cutoff. That was a thing at one point. I don't think it still is. But I've done no research to further my conclusion on the subject. So for now, pipe dope only. Next, I'm going to use the rod that's sitting on the side of the sight glass, and I'm going to start opening up this nipple that goes into the boiler, and I'm going to start blowing water through it. I'm going to try and get all the sludge out through there, put that part of the valve on, and then I'm going to do the top. The top should have less sludge in it. Now I'm going to drain the boiler again, hand over hand, bucket over bucket, and I'm going to take apart the pressure troll. For all intents and purposes, it's just that thing that looks like that. And all this stuff, the same as before, I'm going to go in the sink, clean it all out, make sure water flows through it. And what do you think I'm going to do next? That's right, I'm going to put it all back. How simple is that? So now that that's all done, I'm going to flip the switch, test my low water cutoff. There's no water in the boiler, so it's not starting. Once that's done, I'm going to do a little chemical treatment. I got this Hercules, it's an OD product, boiler and heating cleaner. They sent me 5 gallons of this stuff. And I'm going to feed it in this way. It's not really the best way, but, you know, port to port in a storm. I think that's what that means. And from there, I'm going to start filling the boiler up. And right about there. When it's running, we'll see the water go up and down, but not too much. We'll hear the air coming out of the air vents. And that's a wrap, folks. Steam boiler maintenance. See you on the next one. All right, here we go. Today we're going to be dealing with a code 11 on a Rinnai tankless water heater. Now this is a pretty common call, code 11, code 10. I'm going to walk you through how to fix it, the diagnostic process. If you're a technician, you're going to want to save this video. If you're a homeowner who has one of these, you're going to want to save this video. The last time I did a job like this, I had 1 million people in my messages trying to find out what I was doing. So let me explain. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the igniter and the flame rods here. You'll see a red, a yellow, and a gray wire leading up to them, and they look like this on the inside. So obviously these are very dirty. The first thing that I'm going to try is to clean them off. You can use a rougher grit of sandpaper to do this, but I was raised in heating, and we try to clean things with Brillo pads and dollar bills. So that's exactly what I use. The piece leading up to the gray wire is the igniter, and I'm just going to verify that it works before putting it in. I'm going to start the water, and I'm just going to tap it against there. You can see it arcs. This is not the safest way to do this. Do it for a second and stop. I'm a professional, so if I die, I'll die a hero. But you can see I put everything back clean. Igniter works, and the water heater's still not working. So here's the next step. This is the part that nobody will ever really tell you. Most videos that you're going to find are going to show you how to do that one thing and that one thing only. This is the next step if that doesn't work. I'm taking off this cover here. It has 2 screws that go into the gas valve. You're going to want to get like a bucket or something. Try and organize your screws. You can see I got a spider web. You see that one hole with the white spot in there? If you're a homeowner just trying to get the thing working, you could just clean that spider web out. It should work. If you're a guy that's getting paid to do the job, you should take the whole burner out and clean it because it's the right thing to do. Now you have to take that top plate off and pay close attention to the screws that you took out that were holding other things up. Now when you take this burner out, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. In this case, it was not easy. I took this little cover off and I actually got a screwdriver behind it and pried it, but you don't actually see me get it loose. I just did it again on the video so that you can see how I was doing it. It should be noted, any screwdrivers or drill bits that you're using on this job should be magnetic. Now look, check this out. You're going to see the spider crawl out. There he is. He's on top of the burner. I let him get away because he made me a lot of money today. And then I took compressed air and I blew it through all the tubes, cleaned out all of the burners. There was a lot of debris, leaves, bugs. That's why the spider's down there. Bugs get sucked in from the fan and he eats the bugs. It's a very common problem. If you think that this is one of these things that I just came across and it's a unicorn, you're wrong. This happens all the time. And now you're just going to repeat the steps. You're going to do it backwards. Put the gas valve screws on first. They're the hardest ones to get on. And then when it's all said and done and put back together, you got all the wires where you need them. Turn it on and turn on a faucet. Look inside that window. And there it is. You got a working water heater. No more codes. Anyway, hope this helped. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to send me a message, leave a comment. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next one. All right, we're back on the radiant job today. I had somebody in my comments when I was making a video the last time I was here asking me why I was doing floors if I was a plumber. Now, first off, you've literally seen me do videos of actual floors. But you got to understand what we're doing here is not a floor. It's a radiator. We're putting in tracks for half-inch PEX. We got oxygen barrier PEX, and we're going to run hot water through it, and that's what's going to heat the room. On top of this is going to be another layer of floor and then tile. And with any luck, we'll get to the final stage without anybody putting a nail or a screw through our pipes. I think that's highly unlikely, but we'll see. So the way that we did this was we actually rolled aluminum out on the floor, and then these are all 3/4 plywood, and they're cut into 6-inch pieces. Each piece we cut to size, and then we cut curves on the end of it so we can go and bend the pipe around it. It's a big pain in the ass, but this is the way that we've always done it. And it works a lot better because we can fit a lot more pipe in the floor than if we were going to use pre-made pieces. But anyway, here's the finished part of the floor. Looks good to me. See you on the next one. All right, we're doing a sump pump pit today. Actually, there's already an existing pit here, if you take a look at that. And there's an existing water-powered pump. And I was out here on a free estimate for a sump pump. Actually, it was going to be a customer-supplied sump pump. And somehow or another, wound up selling him a new pit, new pump, new water-powered backup with a discharge. And he's happily paying me like $8,000 instead of like $300. So you can say what you want about that. I don't really care. I'm getting paid. The guy's going to be happy. The reason why we're putting in a new pit is because the pit that the guy had before just wasn't big enough. He didn't like it. He didn't have enough room between the water power pump and the primary pump to be able to change the primary pump if he had to. So we're going to be putting in this sewer ejector pit. It's 24 inches wide. It's plenty of space. And he's actually still supplying the pump. This is his pump. He already had it. It's like a slightly better version of the standard Zoller 3rd horsepower. I didn't even know it existed, but he had it. Now you see him washing off the floor. I'm going to do this probably 100 times over the course of the job. I got everything in the basement protected with plastic. Of course, the guy's got white carpet. I got everything upstairs with that cardboard stuff you roll out. If you want to do a job like this, you have to do that because it is muddy, dude. Now you see I just installed an RPZ. That's actually code in our state to put that in on these types of pumps. And then I'm going to test it out. And you know what? For today, that's going to be it. I'll come back tomorrow and do the concrete and some of the little punch list items. But that's it. See you on the next one.